Imagine this. You're at the supermarket, standing in front of a shelf stocked with hundreds of cereal boxes. Which one do you choose? A familiar brand? The one on sale? Or perhaps the one that has a quirky commercial stuck in your head? Decisions like these seem trivial, yet they're influenced by a labyrinth of biases and mental shortcuts we rarely stop to consider. Welcome to The Art of Thinking Clearly, a book that unravels the cognitive traps and biases that shape our decisions, often without our awareness. In this audiobook by AudiblePages, we'll dive deep into 10 of the most common mental traps that cloud our judgment and derail our choices. Along the way, I'll share stories, sprinkle in humor, and provide practical insights to help you sidestep these pitfalls. Whether you're making life-changing decisions or just trying to pick the right cereal, this is your guide to clarity in a chaotic world. Ready to outsmart your own brain? Let's get started. Chapter 1. The confirmation bias. We all love being right. It feels great. But here's the thing. Our brains are hardwired to seek information that supports what we already believe. This is the confirmation bias in action. It's why flat earthers can find proof for their theories and why we tend to ignore evidence that contradicts our views. Imagine you're buying a new car. You've decided on a specific model, and suddenly, every review you see confirms it's the best choice. Are you truly considering all the information, or are you cherry-picking what feels good? The fix? Be a skeptic of yourself. Actively seek out opposing viewpoints. Ask, what would prove me wrong? It's uncomfortable, but powerful. Additionally, cultivate a habit of consuming diverse sources of information. Read from opposing perspectives to ensure you're not stuck in an echo chamber. Remember, true growth often happens when you confront what makes you uncomfortable. Chapter 2. The availability bias. Why do people fear plane crashes more than car accidents? Because plane crashes dominate headlines, while car accidents are so common they barely make the news. This is the availability bias, where our judgments are skewed by the most recent or vivid examples we can recall. Consider this. You hear about a coworker who won big in the stock market. Suddenly, you think investing is a surefire way to wealth. But is it? Or are you ignoring the thousands who lost money? Combat this bias by digging deeper. Don't rely on what's most memorable. Look at the data. Seek out comprehensive statistics rather than relying on anecdotal evidence. For example, before jumping into an investment based on a success story, research failure rates and long-term trends. Build the discipline to verify what you hear, not just repeat it. Chapter 3. The sunk cost fallacy. Imagine you've spent hours watching a terrible movie. Do you turn it off? Or do you endure it because you've already invested so much time? If you chose the latter, congratulations, you've fallen into the sunk cost fallacy. This bias tricks us into throwing good money, time, or energy after bad. Whether it's a failing project or a toxic relationship, the lesson is clear. Cut your losses. Make decisions based on future value, not past investment. To avoid this trap, practice regularly asking yourself, if I hadn't already invested time or money, would I still choose this path? This mindset shift can help you detach emotionally from past commitments and focus on what truly matters moving forward. Chapter 4. Loss aversion. Let's play a game. I'll flip a coin. If it's heads, you win $100. If it's tails, you lose $50. Would you take the bet? If not, you're like most people who fear losses more than they value equivalent gains. This is loss aversion, and it keeps us clinging to the status quo. Afraid of quitting your job? Scared to try something new? Loss aversion might be the culprit. To overcome it, shift your focus. Ask, what's the cost of not acting? Often, the bigger risk is doing nothing at all. Reframe losses as opportunities for growth. For instance, instead of viewing a job change as a risk of losing stability, consider it an opportunity to gain new experiences and skills. Chapter 5. Herd mentality. Why do we follow the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong? The herd mentality is a survival instinct from our ancestors. It's safer to stick with the group than to go it alone. But in modern times, this can lead to poor decisions, like buying into market bubbles or agreeing with a group opinion you secretly doubt. Break free by questioning the herd. Ask yourself, Am I doing this because it's right or because everyone else is doing it? When faced with a decision, take a moment to evaluate your motivations. Are you following others out of convenience or fear of judgment? Learn to stand firm in your values, even if it means going against the majority. Chapter 6. The Halo Effect. Ever notice how attractive people seem more competent or trustworthy? That's the halo effect at work. One positive trait, like beauty or charm, can overshadow everything else, distorting our judgment. Don't fall for it. Whether you're hiring someone or evaluating a product, focus on the facts, not the shiny packaging. Create structured decision-making criteria. For example, when hiring, emphasize skills and qualifications over charisma. Consistently remind yourself to separate one trait from the overall evaluation. Chapter 7. Overconfidence. Raise your hand if you think you're an above-average driver. Statistically, most of you just raised your hands, and statistically, most of you are wrong. This is overconfidence, one of the most pervasive biases Belly explores. It's why we overestimate our abilities, think we can predict the future, or tackle a project without preparation. The antidote? Humility. Embrace uncertainty and seek feedback from others. Additionally, adopt the habit of verifying your assumptions. Before taking action, ask, what evidence do I have to support this belief? This small step can save you from costly mistakes and reinforce better judgment. Chapter 8. The Anchoring Effect. Imagine you're shopping for a car, and the salesperson shows you a model for $50,000. Even if you later see a $30,000 car, the first price anchors your perception, making the second seem like a steal. Anchoring influences decisions from negotiations to shopping. The solution? Set your own benchmarks. Research before you shop or negotiate so you're not swayed by arbitrary numbers. Practice mindfulness in moments where anchoring might occur and challenge the first piece of information you encounter. Chapter 9. Survivorship Bias. We love success stories. Entrepreneurs who dropped out of college to start billion-dollar companies inspire us. But what about the countless others who tried and failed? This is survivorship bias, where we focus on the winners and ignore the losers. To think clearly, study the failures as well. They often hold more lessons than the successes. When evaluating success, ask, what's the full picture? Seek out data on both successes and failures to form a balanced perspective. Avoid romanticizing the path of the few who succeeded while ignoring the struggles of the many who didn't. Chapter 10. Reciprocity. When someone gives you a gift, you feel compelled to return the favor. This is the principle of reciprocity, and while it fosters cooperation, it can also be exploited. Think of free samples at stores or gifts from salespeople. Before reciprocating, ask yourself, is this genuine or am I being manipulated? Learn to recognize when reciprocity is being used as a tactic. Protect your autonomy by pausing before responding and weighing your actions against your long-term goals. Conclusion. The art of thinking clearly is not about achieving perfection. It's about becoming aware of the biases that cloud our judgment and learning to sidestep them. It's about pausing before we act, questioning our assumptions, and making decisions based on logic rather than impulse. As we wrap up, remember this. The journey to clear thinking is lifelong. You'll stumble, you'll fall for a bias or two, but that's okay. What matters is that you're now armed with the knowledge to recognize these traps and navigate them with grace. In your everyday life, apply these lessons incrementally. Next time you're faced with a decision, whether it's choosing a cereal, a career, or a life partner, pause, reflect, and think clearly. Over time, these practices will become second nature, and you'll find yourself making decisions with a newfound clarity and confidence. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the art of thinking clearly. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep thinking clearly.